Hello everyone, welcome to SI UK India webinar. Thank you for joining us. We are now live with ETS. Today we have Sandy and Joanna with us. They will be taking us through this webinar. We'll answer all the questions during the presentation, after the presentation during the Q&A session. So let's start the webinar. Over to you, Sandy.
Brilliant. Thank you, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. We will be sharing copies of the slides, so please don't worry about taking notes. So happy to share those, and we would like to, if possible, just take questions at the end. Okay, just bear with me. I've got just loading it up. Okay, I'm just loading up the presentation, but I'll begin whilst I do that. So really today's session is looking at how can we really assist you in your journey to go and study abroad, whether that be to the UK or other destinations, and really to explain to you a bit more in detail as to how really TOEFL can assist you in terms of that journey. But also I'm joined today by a university which I'm delighted by, because what the University of South Wales, Joe can explain to you better, is really the, I guess, the process that you would have to undergo, but also the top tips that she can also provide. And more importantly, I think firsthand from a university's point of view, it's really valuable, some of the insights that she most certainly can share with you. So let's begin. So this is what we intend to kind of walk you through. I will look at a couple of bullets at the beginning, and then I'll pass on to Joe to really speak to you in depth about the other really things that you need to really carefully take into consideration. First of all, I think it goes without saying that the UK universities, UK government have obviously visa requirements that you would need to fulfill, and they're quite straightforward actually. So we have a points-based system, in case you're not aware, and I'm sure the wonderful counsellors at SI UK have already made you aware of this, but you need to really obtain 70 points, and the points are not tradable, so you have to get...
Sorry to interrupt, Sandy. I just wanted to check what slides you're sharing, because at the moment we're looking at your desktop.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me just...
That's all right. Just thought, oh, before you go on any further.
Let me have another attempt at this. No. Is that better? Can you see them now?
Yes, Insiders Insights UK. Yeah.
So sorry about that. So this is what I was alluding to, the actual points. So for you, really, in terms of your journey, it's important to know that you need to get the 70 points. And how do you get those? So you've got 50 points which are awarded towards your CAS, which stands for the Confirmation of Acceptance for Studies, and that's what the university issue if you actually are able to fulfill the other requirements. And the other requirements are pretty much financial and English language. And that's where we come in as an organisation, as in TOEFL's role. So the UK Home Office do actually provide a number of choices that universities can make in terms of which test, but for TOEFL most definitely it is one of the tests that you can use to really apply for a student visa for B2 study. So again, all I would say here is ensure that you understand the requirements, which are very straightforward, but you must fulfill these. And again, I guess the role we play is that should you take TOEFL IBT, it is a test that's trusted and well known. But more importantly, we're delighted to continue to tell people that it is accepted 100%. It is a myth that it's not accepted. It's only accepted for the US and Canada. Well, let me tell you, it's not. We're delighted to really say that over 12,000 institutions globally accept the TOEFL test. So in terms of the insights that we can provide you, so already we've looked at the fact that you will need a student visa in order to fulfill the requirements, one of which is English language. You would obviously take an English language test, but for TOEFL, these are the minimum score requirements for each of the sections. So listening, writing, speaking, reading. Now, one thing I would want to just emphasize here is that you would actually also need to keep an eye on the university's requirements, because depending on the course and the mode of study, these requirements can be differing. What I mean by that is it can be higher. They most certainly wouldn't be lower. So again, whilst it's great that you aim to get the visa requirements B2, you must also very much be aware of the university's requirements so that you're not disappointed. As well as getting the financial documentation in place, undertaking your English language test, getting your other qualifications checked, you may also be faced with what we call a credibility interview. And this is something that I think, again, universities, whilst universities do talk about it, many applicants aren't aware of. And really what this is doing is to really, I guess, really look into what are your intentions? Are your intentions to come and study? The other thing that the credibility interviews also do is look at really your English language. So again, just a tip, make sure that you are comfortable and knowledgeable about where you're going to study, what you're going to study, and really have the facts and information to hand. And again, there's lots of information on university websites and in the public domain that provide other tips outside of what I've shared with you here. So in terms of, again, going back to how can TOEFL help you with this journey, we have a number of tests offered in a variety of formats, depending on what your needs are. We also have undertaken a lot of enhancements to our test. I understand that nobody likes to be tested, nobody likes exams, so therefore we really take great pride at ETS to ensure that we make the experience a far better one than what it was previously. But more importantly, that's not in any way, I guess, impacting the quality of the scores or the calibre of the student that we send to a UK university. So I'll talk briefly about some of these in terms of insights to give you. So again, you may not be familiar with the test. Like other English language tests, it has 4 sections. However, it is one of the shortest tests in the market. And I think that's really important as well, the amount of time you're sat there, behind a desk and undertaking each of these tasks. So again, you can see very clearly the time allocated towards each task, but what also makes the TOEFL test quite different and sets it apart is that we have integrated tasks. And that's really important for you to be aware of, because many universities would want to ensure that you leave the university with a good honours and that you do progress. And sometimes students aren't aware that if they're not, let's say, as confident in answering some of those integrated tasks, it's going to be a challenge in a university environment. So the universities that you would go and possibly study at, you will be listening, you will be reading, you will be writing. One task really is never assessed in isolation of another. So the test really prepares you for what it's going to be like within a university lecture room or within a webinar or a seminar, whatever it may be. So that's just a really, really quick overview of the test. And again, it's really important for us to ensure that we reduce test anxiety, that again, the experience is a far better and improved experience. So again, we wanted to look at ways in which we not only reduce the test, but also ensure that we are not in any way sacrificing quality. And again, this really provides an overview of what change we made. And this was back in July. So again, the registration process was really in need of enhancement, and we've made that much more user-friendly. It's much more easier to navigate, and you can book right up to the test date. Again, another, I guess, important feature for when you're looking at English language tests is how quickly you're going to get the score, but more importantly, how confident are you after having taken the test that you will have met those reading, writing, listening or speaking requirements? So as I mentioned earlier, when I laid out the points that are needed for the student visa, I also referred to TOEFL and laid out what the reading, writing, listening, speaking scores were. So with TOEFL, and again, this is very bespoke to TOEFL, is before you leave the test centre, you will get an unofficial reading and listening score. So what that tells you is if you've met the score or how far off you are. Therefore, you would possibly want to go back and reflect and re-look at booking a test at a later date. Then we also tell you when your official score will actually be ready and communicated. And I think all of this really helps you with your journey in terms of being able to apply in a timely manner. We also want to ensure that we have as much as possible freely available test prep materials. So these are just some of the things or resources that we have readily available. And one bit of advice I would like to give is whichever test you take, always take a practice test, because a practice test again will, first of all, it's free, but again, it will really, I guess, pinpoint the areas that you need to work more on in order to get that score requirement, or areas where you may be surprised where you don't need to do as much work. So I think it really does provide a lot of I guess, valuable insight into your progress. And then with that, there are also some AI scored practice tests sets available as well. So I would really welcome you to really make the most of such resources, because whether you're applying now or not, these are really valuable. And then we also understand, whilst I'm based in the UK, we also understand the need to have support in country. So again, we're really delighted to announce that we do have in-country support throughout the year, throughout the week, in order to really help facilitate any things that you need in order to really begin your journey. So what I'm going to do there is just pause for a moment and really now look to handing this over to Jo so that she can talk to you a bit more about the actual application process, timelines, and share any tips from a university perspective. Thank you. And then we'll take questions at the end.
Thank you, Sandy. I'm just going to share my screen. Okay. Okay, can you see that, Sandy?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that, Sandy. And I couldn't agree more, actually. Practice, practice, practice. Yeah, practicing your English as much as you possibly can, familiarizing yourself with the TOEFL format or whichever English test you choose. And I'm sure this applies to many other areas of the application process as well, which I'll go into in a second. So as I was introduced earlier, my name is Jo Scapel-Horn. I'm an international development manager based within the India team at the University of South Wales. I'm based within the UK, but we also have a team in India, in Mumbai, and also in Delhi, 2 colleagues. And I will pass over their contact details a little later. But what I'm going to talk to you a little bit today is about how do you choose the right university for you, and what is the application process, and what kind of documents should you be thinking about putting together. So a couple of hints and tips for you, because no doubt some of you who have joined today are at the very early stages of your application. Some of you may already have applied, but no doubt it does feel like a bit of a minefield. Maybe it feels a little bit overwhelming because there is so much choice. But hopefully you've already decided that the UK is for you. So that's narrowed it down quite a lot. And now you must decide which university is the right university for you. Okay, so I would start by thinking about which course is the right course for you. You need to think about what kind of course do you think you will enjoy? You need to think about your career aspirations. What career is this going to lead you to? So when you're looking at the course, it's important to look at the quality of the program and also the rankings of that course, because, and I mentioned rankings here within the course because I think that many students look at overall rankings of universities within the UK, and I completely understand why you would do that, because when you have so much choice, where do you start? And of course, ranking seems an obvious choice. And it's fine to use that as a reference point. But what you need to be very aware of is that you might have a university which is very well ranked, but actually within the subject area, they might be ranked a lot lower than a different university which might have a much lower overall ranking, because different universities are very well known and are ranked very differently in terms of subject area. So it is important that you bear that in mind. You should also look at the employment opportunities that particular course might give. What kind of links does that university have with industry, for example? And is the course more of a practical program, or is it more of a research-based programs? Is it accredited, for example? So when I say accredited, it means accredited by a professional body. So to give you an example then, at the University of South Wales, employability is the heart of everything we do. We are a very practical university. So if learning and doing is the way that you learn best, then this might be a university you'd want to consider. There are many placements available across both undergrad courses and some of our postgraduate programs. So for example, if you were to join one of our undergrad business programs, and in the second year, all students would need to complete a 20-week placement. So that gives you excellent exposure to UK employers, which looks amazing on your CV and something that employers back in India will really value. Also some excellent part-time and postgrad job opportunities, and many of our courses are accredited by professional body, and that means that they've been endorsed by the industry and that we keep in contact with these professional bodies to make sure that the course content is very relevant. You might also need to think about the location of the university. So do you want to study in a city, a large city like London, or would you prefer a smaller city? So for example, the University of South Wales is based in, well, we have 3 campuses, you can see from the map here. We have one campus based in South Wales here in Cardiff, Cardiff being the capital city of Wales. You have Newport, which is another smaller city, and then you have Pontypridd, and that's a little town. So basically all within reaching distance of London. So it takes about 2 hours to get to London. So great if you're looking to go to London for the weekend. So that's one consideration you should think about. Do you want to live in a large city, a smaller city, or you might feel more comfortable living in a town or a more rural area? Something to think about. Affordability. Now, of course, if you're going to live in London, it's obviously going to be far more expensive than living in a smaller city or a town. So you do need to factor that in. You also need to think about how expensive the tuition fees are. Does the university provide any scholarships? So to give you an example, in the University of South Wales, our tuition fees are very affordable. So for an undergrad programme, you'd be looking at about £14,100 each year of study. Okay, different universities have different tuition fees, so that is certainly something you'll need to look at. At the University of South Wales, we also offer scholarships to our Indian students, and they are scholarships of £2,500 for undergrad and also for postgrad. And if you're studying an undergrad programme with us, that £2,500 would be offered each year of study. So your scholarship is £7,500. Now, you need to think about, are there any external scholarships? So it might be worth looking at the British Council, for example, Study in Wales. They also offer some great scholarships. So they might have, or they would certainly have, an additional application process. So have a look at their websites directly, and also have a look at the India pages on the universities that you're interested in, because they are bound to have some information on the scholarships there. Also, have a look at the international student population. Is this a large university, or are you looking to study in a smaller university? So University of South Wales, we are a very multicultural university. We have over 2,500 international students each intake from over 120 different countries. So we also have a very large Indian population. So this year we welcomed over 300 students to campus in September, and that number is growing each year. So you certainly would feel at home at the University of South Wales. And also the location. So Cardiff and Newport both have very large Indian populations, because there are a few other universities. So you have Cardiff University, and you also have Cardiff Metropolitan Universities based there. So you can imagine very large student populations. You need to think about when you will be joining the university. So we've just had our September intake, and September is the most popular intake for universities within the UK. But some universities will also offer a January and February intake, and the University of South Wales is one of those universities. And there's no better person to speak with about what it's like to be a student in the UK than to speak with students who are already studying there. Now, most universities will give you an opportunity to be able to connect with other students. And we have the Uni Buddies program. So there's a link here. Again, we'll send you this after this presentation, where you can contact Indian students directly. Ask them, what is it really like to be a student at the University of South Wales? What is the life like? Is it really affordable compared to living in London? How easy is it to get to London? Of course, if you are able to visit the university, it's great if you can, but most universities now will have an in-country team based in India, and it's definitely an idea to speak with those team members. Now, as I said earlier, it can be quite overwhelming when you're thinking about your application. There are so many different things that you need to do, so many hoops to get through to get that all-important CAS letter that Sandy was talking about earlier. So we always recommend that you should find an agent who will help to support you through the application process. We've worked with SI UK for many years, and they have helped hundreds, if not thousands, of our students over the years. So we would wholeheartedly recommend them. Application documents. So I'm just going to talk you through some of the documents that you would expect to submit with your application. Obviously, your academic transcripts. If you've just left high school, we would want to see those. If you've just finished a bachelor's degree, then of course we would want to see those, and the transcript and the certificate. Now, I should also mention here that you might not actually have your academic qualification yet. Perhaps you are still waiting for the results, and that's fine. You can still submit your application. It just means that you'll only get a conditional offer until you are able to submit your bachelor or your high school results. Evidence of English. So again, this is talking about TOEFL, plenty of opportunities out there and options for English tests. And some universities actually offer their own tests. So you should check the university's website to see what tests they accept. But yes, TOEFL is certainly one that we accept. And as Sandy mentioned, all universities within the UK will accept TOEFL as standard. You would also be expected to submit a reference letter. Now, if you've just left high school, then obviously we would look for a letter of reference from your high school. If it's from university, that's where you've done your bachelor's degree, then maybe we would like to see a reference from there. But if you're working, or maybe you've done some work experience, a placement, then it would be great to have one from your employer. But wherever you get your reference from, it should be on official headed paper and recently dated. You'll also need to check with the university to see how many of the references they're expecting. So for the University of South Wales, for example, we are only expecting one reference from you. You'll also need to submit a copy of your passport, and ideally you'll be needing to submit a copy of your CV so that we can see your academic qualifications and your work experience in chronological order. Now, some of you might be interested in joining a creative programme, in which case many universities, including the University of South Wales, we would ask you for a portfolio of work. Now, what is expected from a portfolio of work? Now, each university, again, will have different requirements. So it's definitely worth checking out the course webpage to see what they are looking for. Statement of purpose. Now, this is a really interesting one, actually, because we have so many questions about what is required from a statement of purpose. Now, you will see that there are a lot of resources on university websites. So this is just a little snippet from our website about what we are looking for. But other good references would be SIUK. They will be able to help you with this. And you've also got the British Council, Study in the UK. So there are lots of resources out there. Now, I'm going to tell you a little bit more about what we are looking for from a statement of purpose or a personal statement, whatever you might like to call it. But in the meantime, I would say a top tip from us is if you apply early, it's definitely worth doing that, because the sooner you apply, the quicker you will get an offer letter. Definitely don't leave it until the last minute, because as we get close to the intakes, the admissions teams are starting to get far busier. So the processing times take a little bit longer. At the University of South Wales at the moment, we are working to anything within a 5 working day turnaround time. So that's what you can expect. I've just put this little link here, an application toolkit. It's definitely worth having a little look through that, regardless of whether you apply to the University of South Wales or a different university. Lots of little hints and tips there about how to apply. The statement of purpose. Now, this is something that seems to have evolved over the years, but the one thing you don't want to be doing is copying and pasting a personal statement from another student, or same personal statement for different universities. Ideally, they do need to be individual university statements, individual personal statements for each university that you are applying to. And these are some questions, some prompts, if you like, to help you to write that personal statement. Why are you the right person for the course? So what kind of things interest you? What excites you about the subject? When did you first become interested in the subject that you're applying for? And what have been some of the key moments to lead you to the application? Give examples of why the subject interests you. So when I studied in computing at high school, I particularly enjoyed looking at and researching XYZ. This is because, and due to my interest in this area, I also read XYZ. What skills have you got? So consider what you do in your current job if you're working, or any volunteering, extracurricular activities. So, talk a little bit about that, because maybe that shaped your decision making. Try and stick to a maximum of 4,000 words. So you need to be very accurate and concise, and your content is really important. Don't forget that universities are dealing with hundreds of thousands of applications, so your statement of purpose really does need to stand out. Personally, I like to see statements of purpose that are no longer than 1 page of A4. Also, I find that a lot of students tend to focus quite a lot on quotes that they found. I would suggest that that's actually not needed. We are more interested in your words, so understanding what has prompted you to make the decision to apply for this course. And then summarize your goal. So in the next 5 years, I would like to have you, when you complete this master's or complete this undergraduate program, how is this going to help you in your future career? So moving on then, some universities would require you to apply through UCAS, particularly if you were applying for an undergraduate program. So this is what really is expected, a UCAS application. But there are some other universities, the University of South Wales, for example, would accept an application directly for both undergraduate and postgraduate. Now, UCAS is only really for undergraduate. I know they have started thinking about accepting postgrad applications, but I would suggest that most universities in the UK are accepting applications directly for postgraduate courses. The admissions process. So this is going to vary quite a lot according to different universities. Okay, so to give you an idea about what you can expect, I'm going to talk you through quite quickly the admissions process at the University of South Wales. So the first thing that would happen is you would submit an application through your agent, such as SIUK. Now, I've noted there a deadline, so that's another thing that you need to bear in mind, that every university will have a deadline, different deadlines. So our deadline to apply is the 13th of November, and this is for postgraduate courses that start in February. So the application is submitted through your agent, then it's assessed by our admissions team. They would then process an offer. And that offer can be unconditional, which means you don't need to do anything else. You are accepted onto the course, or it could be conditional, which means that perhaps you need to submit your TOEFL, for example, if you haven't quite done your English qualification yet, or it could be your academic qualifications. There might be some instances where an application needs to be referred to the faculty. So this could be for a very specialist program. We talked a little bit earlier about creative programs. And for example, if a course requires a portfolio, then more often than not, that needs to be referred to the faculty for a decision. So it's an extra step in the application process, and another reason why I always suggest that students should submit applications as early as possible so that we're able to get decisions back to you very soon. So if you have a conditional offer, you need to send us the outstanding conditions, and usually SIUK will do that on your behalf. So maybe you haven't submitted your TOEFL results, so you need to do that. Then you'll get an unconditional offer. It's at this point that at the University of South Wales, you would complete a KIRA credibility interview. So Sandy mentioned a little bit earlier about a UKVI credibility interview, and this is an interview which assesses whether they believe that you are a genuine student, you have the intention of coming to study in the UK. Now, the KIRA credibility interview that we offer is a practice interview, if you like. So it's important that you must pass it, because if you pass this interview, this gives us an indication that you would also be well prepared to pass a UKVI interview. It's done online, and there are pre-prepared recorded questions that you will be asked. And all these questions are questions that the UKVI would ask you. Why are you interested in studying in the UK? Why have you chosen the University of South Wales? Why have you chosen this particular course? And it really makes you think about how you've come to this decision. So there's a lot of guidance that you'll be given by SIUK, by the universities. You don't need to worry too much about this, but it's definitely good practice for you to do this interview. Not every university would ask you to do this, but we do it to safeguard you and prepare you. At the University of South Wales, once you have passed the KIRA interview, it's at that point that you would pay a deposit. You would also need to complete something called CAS Shield. And this is a platform which basically you would upload all the same documents that you would upload for submitting your visa application. And the reason we do this is that we check all your documents to make sure that you would be eligible for a visa. And that basically means that we are protecting you from getting a visa refusal. So only once we are happy that you've paid your deposit, that you have completed your CAS shield, it's then that we would issue your CAS. It might also be worth mentioning here that different universities would require different deposits. At the University of South Wales, we ask for 50% of your tuition fees. Some universities will ask for higher, some will ask for lower. And then you've got your CAS, which means that this is the document that's needed to be able to apply for your visa. It's actually just a specific number, but you will get a document from the university. And again, deadlines would apply here. So we've set our CAS deadline as the 7th of December. That might seem quite early if you're applying for a course that starts in February, but it's because, of course, in the UK, we shut down for the Christmas holidays. So we want to make sure that your CAS has been issued before Christmas, so that over the Christmas holiday that you can apply for your visa. And that's what you would do next. You would apply for your visa would hopefully be issued, and then you would arrive on campus for enrollment. So hopefully that gives you an insight into the general admissions process that you would expect at UK universities. As I said, this is for the University of South Wales, but it will be quite similar for most universities, with some changes maybe. If you do have any questions after this session, you are more than welcome to contact us directly at india@southwales.ac.uk. So that's it from me. I shall pass you back over to Sandy and the team at SIUK.
Thank you so much, everyone, and taking out your time and giving us this insightful presentation. Now time for Q&A session. I will call out the questions from the YouTube chat box. Okay, so the first question is, what is the fee structure of an MBA, or is there any scope of scholarship? I'm sorry, am I audible?
Yes, you are. So, Joe, have you got an idea from your institution's perspective on the scholarship? All I'd like to say from the ETS India and UK point of view is that we do also, which I know you've kindly put in the chat box, we also have scholarships, and the next scholarship deadline actually is for the January intake. So please do look at that. And that scholarship can be used for any course at any level, any UK university. But Joe, do you have any more insights on the fees? Is she on mute?
Joe, you are on mute. Okay, I guess she will be joining again. Some technical issues happened.
Yeah, she'll be able to best talk about the fee. But again, it will vary slightly, but only a slight variation. Do you want to take another whilst we wait for her to?
Yeah, sure. I'll just call out the next question.
Thank you.
I have 3 years of experience in management. Can I apply for an MBA, or is there any specialized course for 1 year duration?
Okay, yeah, that's another one really for Joe. Again, each university would have its own requirements for such courses, whether they're for 1 year or whether they're for 2 years. Some may take that experience on board, but on the whole, there are obviously tests like GRE as well as TOEFL that could help support an application. But I'll hopefully Joe will be back online. And
hi, sorry, for some reason I couldn't take myself on mute, so I took myself out and back in.
That's okay.
So MBA, yeah, so we have 2 different kinds of MBA actually. So the first is a 1 year program. It's a taught program, and that would be £14,950 for the 1 year. But as I mentioned earlier, we also have a scholarship, and that is worth £2,500, which means that it's like a fee reduction. So that would then bring it down to £12,450. We also have a different MBA Global. So that is a 2-year program. The first year is taught similar to the 1-year program, but in the second year, there's an 8-month placement. So excellent opportunity for some exposure with UK employers. Now, the fee for that one is a little higher. So it's £15,950. Again, the students would be eligible for a scholarship, £2,500, which would bring it down to £3,450. It's actually a really great value for money, because it's only an extra £1,000 on top of the 1-year program, because that fee would cover both years. But of course, we are connecting you with the employers there, so it looks great on the CV.
Okay, so I'll call out the question again.
Yes.
I have 3 years of experience in management. Can I apply for an MBA, or is there any specialized course for a 1-year duration?
Okay, that's a really, I'm quite happy to take that one again, Sandy. Yeah, so what you will find is across different universities that obviously there are different entry requirements. Now, if you have experience working in management or actually in any industry, then generally an MBA is there for students who are looking to progress to senior management. And in which case, some universities have an entry requirement which states that you must have some work experience. Other universities will accept freshers. So the University of South Wales, we prefer students to have some sort of work experience, but we do consider students from all backgrounds, freshers and those with work experience, to both the 1-year MBA and the 2-year MBA Global. We quite like having a mixture because it just means that there's a really interesting and rich conversation within the classroom with students who are able to share their experience from their work experience background with those who maybe don't have that experience. So yeah, we will expect those with work experience and those freshers as well. So you'd need to check with the university you're applying to.
Okay. So next question is, can we get job easily after completing masters?
So again, most universities or all universities in the UK will have careers advice teams. So at the University of South Wales, we're no exception. So we have a careers advice based within each of our libraries, and we also have careers teams within each of our faculties. And they will give you a lot of advice about how to apply for graduate jobs, or even how to apply for placements and summer internships. They'll also help you with advice on how to behave in interviews, how to prepare for interviews, how to prepare applications. They'll also have some career fairs through the year. And for the University of South Wales, yes, we have a general career fair, usually around October time, this time of year, for part-time jobs. But then as we go through the year and as we come closer to graduation, we also have more focused careers fairs. So for example, if you're graduating from engineering, then we will invite engineering employers to come to campus. Finance, for example, and accounting, we will invite employers from those industries and those sectors. So very, very specialised and a lot of support out there. We also work very closely. We have a partnership with a company called Student Circus, and this is a startup company. It's an Indian company actually, and they are helping and supporting students, international students specifically, to connect with employers who are willing to support international students, because of course there is a lot of guidance around and restrictions around visas for the graduate route. So we have a lot of support available to Indian students.
Do we have an option of direct apply to USW?
Yes, we will accept applications directly for both undergraduate and postgraduate, but we would always recommend that you apply through an agent such as SIUK. The reason being is that it can be quite a complex admissions process, as I've just demonstrated there. And we find that students who apply through SIUK tend to do far better in the interview, the credibility interview. They're far more prepared, and the application process is far less stressful for you. So please apply through an agent such as SIUK.
Okay. Is there any way of getting IELTS waiver?
Right. So again, different universities will have different English entry requirements. So yes, for the University of South Wales, we definitely would waive IELTS for, there's a couple of situations we would do this. So it could be that students aren't able to easily access IELTS and maybe they would prefer TOEFL, for example, or another English test. There's quite a few different options which are listed on our website. There are also some opportunities, particularly for Indian students, where they might have studied 12th standard. And perhaps they've performed very well in their English 12th standard. So for us, for example, if a student has 65% in CBSE English, then we would accept that and we wouldn't require IELTS or any other English test. But if you are a little bit lower, then yes, an English test such as IELTS or TOEFL would be required.
How big is the Indian community at ETS?
At ETS?
ETS, yeah. Oh gosh, I would need to come back. It's quite big, especially if you're talking outside of India. We have quite a diverse workforce based in Princeton, New Jersey, but even in India, the majority are Indian, but there are some colleagues from different walks of life, from different nationalities. But I can come back to you on that. I don't know a figure offhand, I'm afraid.
And I would add to that, actually, that from the perspective of Indian students who've completed TOEFL, we have a lot of students who've done the TOEFL test, and we've recently spoken to a few students who've done the test, and we've encouraged them to do it because obviously it's done online, it's very convenient, and students have performed very well in it. So we've definitely had a lot of positive feedback from Indian students who have completed TOEFL.
Okay. What will be the fees for BA, LLB, and is there any scholarship option?
Yeah, so what I'm going to do after this, I will send you a leaflet, and that's going to give you details of what the tuition fees for each of our courses. So that'll help students a little bit, maybe. So, for example, then, to give you for the LLB, that would be £14,100 each year. The scholarship, again, is £2,500. The scholarship will always be £2,500, regardless of undergrad, postgrad and subject. So that would bring the tuition fee that they would pay down to £11,600. And then as their deposit, they would pay 50% of that tuition fee. The other 50% balance would then be paid either in full when they arrive on campus, in which case students would get a £300 early bird discount, or they can pay it in installments when they arrive on campus. Then they can set that up with the revenue team.
Okay. What is the minimum academic requirement for BA, LLB? It's kind of the same question.
So for a student who, is this for students who would like to progress to an undergraduate program? Is that what I'm being asked here?
Yes.
Yeah, so I'll give you, because I know that some students might ask particular questions about specific courses. So I'll just give you a broad overview about entry requirements. And of course, the entry requirements I'm giving now are for the University of South Wales. They will differ depending on which university you're applying for. So if you're an undergrad, if you're in high school at the moment or recently finished high school, then generally we would be looking at anything really 65%, 60 to 65% or above is what we are looking for in your 12th standard. Don't forget that if you're looking to join an undergraduate program in something quite generic like business, we wouldn't be looking for any particular subject area in the 12th standard. But if you are applying for subjects such as engineering, then the sciences will be quite important, particularly we'd be looking at your maths and also your physics. They would be quite important. So different subject areas will have different requirements. So look at the course webpage, I would suggest. For postgraduate students, so students applying for a postgrad course in the UK for University of South Wales, in a 3-year programme, we'd be looking at about 60% or above. Okay, that's where we'd really be looking at. That's the grade you need to be aiming for, if not higher. And again, slightly different requirements according to different subject areas.
I have covered all the questions from YouTube chat box. Thank you for answering all the questions so well. Do you want to share any final words?
For me, it would just be that my advice to you would be, make sure you do your research. Make sure that you don't just look at the rankings. There are some excellent universities in the UK that are all so very different in terms of location, in terms of the subjects they offer, in terms of tuition fees. You really need to think about, am I the kind of student who thrives in an environment which is mainly theory-based, or is it more immersive learning by doing, practical courses? Because that if, for example, if you are a student who will do well in a practical course, then a university like the University of South Wales would definitely be a very good option for you, rather than a research-based university, and vice versa. But be prepared, speak with your agent, take their advice, because SIUK, for example, they have a wealth of knowledge. They have worked with the University of South Wales and their other partner universities for many, many years. They know their requirements inside out, so they are going to give you a lot of guidance. So please make sure you keep in contact with them throughout the application process. And finally, best of luck.
Thank you. And I guess just from my point of view, really it's key to kind of preparing for whichever English language test you do. That's the kind of one bit of advice any UK university would give you, is prepare, and not just prepare to pass the test, prepare yourself in terms of the English language command that's required for you to be successful in an academic environment. And there are so many resources out there, but again, as I mentioned in the presentation, take a practice test. They're free. It's a really good opportunity for you to be able to benchmark yourself. And really all that's left to say is, again, just research, as Joe said, research and prepare in advance as well. The UK is continuing to be a popular destination, and we welcome international students and we welcome Indian students, but the earlier you apply, the better it is for you, really. But good luck, and thank you so much for your time and joining us today.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everyone, for your valuable time. All the audience, if you have any further questions, please feel free to contact us at UK India office. For more update, do follow us on our social media handles. Bye-bye. Take care.
Yukti, I don't know whether it's worth staying on for a minute.
Yeah, it will be live for 1 more minute and then we can talk.
Yeah, I think Sandy's just calling me a second. Just bear with me. Hi, Sandy.
Hi, just thought I'd quickly call you. Have you got a couple of minutes, or you've got to go?
No, I've got time. I've got time. I'm still online, actually, because I thought I'd have a quick catch up with Yukti to see how it went.
You want to do that then? You carry on and then just give me a buzz when you're.
Yeah, no worries. I'll give you a call back shortly. All right, speak soon. Bye.
Thanks.
Hi, Yukti, you okay?
Yeah, I'll just stop sharing on YouTube and then we can cut. 1 minute.
While you're doing that, I'm just going to send you a copy of this leaflet because I definitely think it would help out the students.